Hello and welcome to DVB Vox Pop, a podcast featuring voices from Generation Z.
We are your hosts, Nyingsu
and Duya.
Tune in every week to hear young people share their personal stories
and how they hope to achieve a future democratic Myanmar,
free from military dictatorship. To listen, follow DVB English in your podcast app.
DVB Vox Pop is available wherever you get your podcasts. Hello, welcome to DVB Vox Pop. I'm your host, Duya. For this week's episode, I'm here with Pyartho, a young teacher who joined civil disobedience movement CDM to fight back the military coup. Hello, Pyartho. Welcome to DVB Vox Pop.
Hello.
Pyartho, could you please introduce briefly about yourself?
I am Pyartho, and I was a CDM teacher, and I joined CDM as soon as I heard that's the way to fight against military in a non-violent way. And also, at the same time, I joined Federal FM. At first, I was not a producer. I just voice over. I couldn't produce my own programs at that time. But later, I think after a year, I produced my own program called 1 Minute Federal. And now, after 2 years, I started doing my podcast called Youth Line, Lu Nghe Line. And also I have another program called Radio Edu, educating people through radio.
Before you joined CDM movement, how did you become a teacher?
I'm a Muslim, and my mother told me to work for the government and to become a civil servant, and especially a teacher is the best job, living in Myanmar as a Muslim. And that's why I became a teacher.
I know it's really difficult. Was there any discrimination to you?
At first, it was very easy for me, to be a teacher and a Muslim. I don't have any discrimination. Like when I was in my school life, everyone respects me, my students, the parents, and also my co-workers. But later, when I'm a bit familiar with them, I realized that they are trying, not to say a word in front of me, but when we stay very close, they, use the words like kala and other, discrimination, just small things, but I feel that I'm discriminated. But there is a big thing I remember when I was at the college. My principal, she's the highest rank at the college, but she used, the same word, kala, and she told me that because I'm a Muslim, no one wants to live with me. Everyone wants to avoid me, like that kind of word. And I was a bit surprised, and I was shocked at that time.
Yeah, that's really sad because I know in 2012, there's a lot of conflict between Buddhists and Muslim people all over Myanmar. I think 2017 is the worst in Rakhine State. At the time, how do you feel about that?
In 2012, I was a university student, and because I'm just a student, I don't have much knowledge about that kind of crisis. When I entered into the classroom, my friends are together in their groups, and as soon as I entered the room, they are all silent. And I realized that they are talking about the Rohingya crisis, and they didn't want me to hear that. But some friends, they're not very close friends, but they came to me in purpose and discussed about those Rohingya crisis. And I felt that they wanted me to tell that it was because of the Rohingyas' fault. It was because of the Muslims. I feel that they wanted me to tell that the Muslims are invaders in Myanmar and we must, leave the country. But, my mother was born here, my father was born here, I was born here, and I have nowhere to go. I just live here, I grew up here, and it was a tough time for me, but I didn't discuss anything with them because I just want to be close with them. In 2017, I think I was a teacher at that time. So the situation was not that, intense, but my co-workers, they are just trying to be nice to me, but they just gossip behind me. And they try to, put me in that situation, and the Rohingyas are invaders, and she's like that, the same. And they always criticize me for the things I do, like because she is a Muslim, she did like that, and, they gossip behind me.
So, like, I know it's really hard, like, at that time. So, did you feel safe to go to mosques, like, every Friday, right?
Yeah, but we normally don't go to the mosque, especially women in Myanmar, because of the patriarchy, from the leaders of the Muslim community. They didn't want women to go to the mosque, and so we normally go to, on the occasions like Eid or the other special days, we go to mosque, but not every Friday. And for me, I couldn't go to the mosque because I'm afraid that they're gonna ban the mosque, and if I was there, I will be banned with them. And so it was not safe for me to stay in, not only me, my family is the same, feels the same. We don't feel safe.
Now let's talk about the CDM. So when you join civil disobedience movement, how does your family react?
My mother is also a high school teacher and she joined CDM. So I'm not alone at home who joined CDM. And my mother is almost 60 at that time, and she could, still just wait for the retirement, but she didn't want to do that, and she joined CDM. So she's my, role model, and I think I could still involved in CDM movement. I didn't go back to the military control schools, and that's, I think, because of my mother.
Wow, that's really like amazing, like two CDM people in one house. So you and your mother joined CDM. Did you get any threat from the military or from your principal?
Yes, I got notice from my principal. During NLD rule time, we got 2 months loan from the government, and they wanted me to pay that back. And I got notice from my principal, and my mother did the same, received the same. She even got phone calls from her principal and from her colleagues.
After you joined CDM, like you and your mother, does any of your college also join CDM?
There are over 10 people, 10 teachers from my college. They also joined CDM.
Over 10 people join CDM. So did some of them back to work under the military?
At first, there are over 20, almost 30, and only over 10, some small amount of people still joined CDM, and the other people went back to the military-controlled college.
Okay, so When the military coup started, like, how did you and your mother feel about this?
To be honest, I didn't feel anything for that, and I thought that will, somehow they could discuss each other, like NLD and the military, and the country will be, okay again. And I don't feel much worried about that, but my mother is a bit different from me, I think, because she encountered the same situation in 1988. She thought that we couldn't, stay in a democracy country anymore, and we were under the military again. And I think she accepted that situation.
Okay, now you're in Thailand, so how did you manage to come here?
Actually, I didn't want to come here. I just stay as much as I can in Yangon. I moved from place to place to avoid the military raids. And one day, I heard that one of the close members from Federal FM was arrested, and we are very close. And I didn't feel that I'm safe anymore. And all the other members are already in Thailand, so they wanted me to come to Thailand. But I'm a CDM teacher, so I couldn't, just use the flight and to fly to Thailand. So I use illegal way to cross the border. And as soon as I arrived at the Thailand border, I got arrested. But luckily, it was by the Thai police, not from Myanmar police. But again, I was lucky, and I couldn't stay in the prison.
I believe there's so many teachers who join civil disobedience movement, and then now most of them stay in the jungle along the border. So do you have any connection with them?
Yes, I think last month I wrote a feature stories about those teachers, and I got contact with one of those teachers, and she said she is also a lady from IDB camp, and because she is a teacher, she wants to help for the continuous learning for the students in IDB camps, and she cooperate with other teachers, CDM teachers, in the same IDP camps, and they make group and teach students from IDPs.
So those teachers in the jungle, are they? Did they get any support from NUG or CRPH?
She said she didn't. She only got a support from 1 or 2 months when she started joining CDM, but after that, she said she didn't. And she needs financial assistance because she has no job. And I got contact with the teachers who are teaching at the Rohingya camps. They are also Rohingya refugees, but they, establish a school and teaching Rohingya children, especially, Myanmar language and Myanmar culture, because they believe that they could go back to Myanmar one day.
Now the military is preparing to repatriate the Rohingya people. I mean Rohingya refugee in Bangladesh. So they want Rohingya people come back to Myanmar. Do you think they will be safe if they came back to Myanmar?
Of course, I don't think. And because I think they are just showing off for the ICJ court, and I don't want, those Rohingya people to be hopeless again because of the military.
So what do you hope for the future of Myanmar?
To be honest, I've never thought about that question, the answer for that question, because even under the democracy government, we didn't feel safe, and we are not safe, Even if Myanmar is, democracy country again, I'm not confident to say that we could feel safe, to stay in Myanmar, because, under democratically elected government, we have civil wars and, Rohingya crisis. So I think that will, happen again. So I don't know. For your question, my answer is I'm not sure.
Would you like anything to add?
So most women in Myanmar are fighting, patriarchy at the same time with the military, and I hope that patriarchy will fail at the same time with the military. That's what I want to add.
Pyartho, thank you so much for joining with us today. I really appreciate your time.
You're very welcome.